What if I told you almost all old portraits are manipulated hoaxes? And I have sources to prove it. This video is being made for two reasons. First, and most importantly, to show that our history has truly been manipulated, and it's much deeper than most think. And secondly, to prove to those who are still in denial of the topics I presented in the last video. This isn't just a conspiracy that can be simply explained away. I'll provide legit sources and let you conclude on the outcome. And I know this title sounds like a stretch, but we must be aware of the time frame this video is referring to. All the sources that we'll be analyzing in this video come from a time frame called the Age of Enlightenment. This was a very hectic time period of illumination. More importantly, it can be strongly argued that during this time, much of the world was controlled by secret societies. That being said, this is a time period that's connected to a lot of trickery and fraud. And after this video, you'll come to that realization very quickly. But without further taking up any time, let's get right into it. The backdrop of this video will be based around this old book I found from 1733. The title of the book is Memoirs of the Secret Services during the reign of King William, Queen Anne, and King George I. The author is John Mackey, and this book contains a lot of information about the royals and nobles during that time. But what we're going to be focusing on is the descriptions of the physical characteristics of these people. Then we're going to compare them to the portraits that were given. And by the end of the video, I'm sure we're going to come to a very similar conclusion. That being said, let's get right into it. The first person we're going to be analyzing is Charles Lennox, the first Duke of Richmond. It states he's the son of King Charles II by the Duchess of Portsmouth. He was carried by his mother into France during the reign of King James, and left France during the reign of King William when he declared himself for the religion and the constitution of his country. Now this paragraph is the more important part, because it gives us an actual physical description of Charles Lennox. It states he is a gentleman, good-natured to a fault, very well bred and has many valuable things in him, is an enemy to business, very credulous, well-shaped, black complexion, much like King Charles, his father, not 30 years old. Now this is where things take a turn. Now that we have the description of him, let's take a look at the portraits that they made of him. This was drawn by a man in the 17th century named Godfrey Kneller. And I don't even need to say much more, but this is clear evidence of the lengths they go to cover up the truth. And on top of that, look at the hand of whoever this fake person is. This hand sign is a common hand sign amongst these artists to signal to those who are also part of the agenda. The exact meaning of this hand sign is still debated to this day. Some say it has to do with these guys or these guys. Some say it has to do with an ancient form of fertility worship, and it goes on and on. But what we do know is that it has to do with a form of secrecy, and only those that were part of this brotherhood of secrecy, including but not limited to many of these painters, would be able to comprehend these symbols and fulfill their agendas. But that's not all. It also says black complexion, much like King Charles, which was his father. Let's take a look at how they give us King Charles. This is from 1635 by a man named Van Dyke, and allegedly, it's King Charles I. Now clearly we know this is a fake portrait, or it's somebody that took his identity. And the picture has a bit of a Trinity style going on, and you know they like their Trinities, but here's also another portrait of so-called King Charles. This one's from 1610 by a man named Robert Peake. And in this one he looks a bit more feminine. I'm not sure what the case with that is, but you know. And he definitely doesn't fit the depiction of black complexion. But it actually seems the artist is drawing an albino, coincidentally just like all of his other art. But that's not strange at all, is it? And that's only from one page. Let's continue. The next person we're going to analyze is John Lord Somers. In short, he was a royal of a credible family of the city of Worcester. It describes him as easy and free in conversation, something of a libertine, of middle stature, brown complexion, and near 50 years old. Now that we have the description of him, let's compare it to the portrait. Once again, we caught them with another fraudulent manipulation of the truth. And it's no coincidence that we see the same hand sign that this artist incorporated into the portrait. This is as good proof as it gets that those secretly in control will go and have gone outrageous lengths to cover up any truths of the past and deceive an unaware humanity. And it all seems to go back to Revelation 20, where Satan is unbound from the abyss and will go out to deceive the nations. Even if you look around today, there's deceptions in almost every corner you go, whether it be television, the educational systems, the financial systems, the food industry, Hollywood, etc. You name it, there's probably something deceptive going on behind the scenes. And I've only gone through 2 pages. There's much more to come. On this page, we'll be knocking out 2 birds with 1 stone. First, we have Charles Beauclerk, Duke of St. Albans. It states he's a gentleman, well-bred, does not love business, is well affected to the constitution of his country. He is of black complexion, not so tall, but very like King Charles, and he turned 30 years old. Next, we have Charles FitzRoy, Duke of Grafton. It states he is a very pretty gentleman, has been abroad in the world, zealous for the constitution of his country. A tall, black man, about 25 years old. Now that we have their descriptions, let's look at their portraits. First, we'll look at Charles, Duke of Albans. As you can see, another clear absolute proof of a fake. It does not match the description of black complexion at all. And once again, pay close attention to the hand. Again, it's not a coincidence that we see so many paintings of these portraits purposely wrongly presented, and many having this same cryptic hand sign. Now let's look at the other Charles, Charles FitzRoy, Duke of Grafton. And again, the portrait is supposed to be displaying a tall black man, and that is clearly not the case. And again, it's no coincidence that we find this occultic hand sign on the portrait. And after analyzing both Charles FitzRoy and Charles Duke of St. Albans, they both deserve the stamp of disapproval. And trust me, there are many more pages and portraits and books that we can continue to dissect. And when I say many, I truly mean many. But I already know that the content analyzed in this video so far already makes an extremely strong case for this video's argument, so I'll leave the other pages for possible future videos. And we can't forget one of the biggest ways that they're able to pull off these massive deceptions is by simply relying on our laziness and ignorance. They're not expecting us to question their narrative, and definitely aren't expecting us to go looking through old books and documents that contradict their agendas. And we've seen these types of things happen before. For example, somebody may stumble upon a declassified government document that says something that it's not supposed to say, and then the people in charge will take notice and then just wipe all previous evidence and act like nothing happened. But to get back on track, I think now is a good time to shortly talk about the glory of the new covenant. I think far too often some of us focus on the negative more than the positive and forget that Christ is still reigning in power. It says countless amounts of times that it's an everlasting reign, an everlasting kingdom, an everlasting covenant. And this is where the confusion starts to come in, because there's people who are trying to tie the kingdom of God into Tartaria or Catholicism or other things that they don't even truly understand. And as seen in the video, the script can be flipped. And these things may sound good, but when put to the test, they won't fully hold up. Christ came into the world to destroy the kingdom of the devil in the souls of men, and to set up his own kingdom in them. He is the mediator of the new covenant and mediates the Spirit of God to man. It's one of the reasons there's so much power in his name. It's because he's in that mediatorial kingdom. And this covenant is opened up to all people. Gone are the days of national, genuine bloodline Israel. But I just wanted to quickly touch on that and save the depth for another video. If you enjoyed, subscribe, leave a like, and check out my last video as it's similar to this one. Also, feel free to mirror or share this video with a truther or a friend.